You need some netting and some paracord, and we'll just call
Yeah,
it good.
that's what I need for a little makeover here. I'm a Mon Calamari makeover.
But my friend Tom Burrell let me borrow a little best
Oh,
card.
you're kind of. Now I can hear you there for a second. It felt like something was lagging. That looks good.
I'm still praying about it, but I'm thinking about offloading this best car so we can upgrade our audio situation. You know what I mean?
This is the way. I feel like you're willing to give.
This is the way.
How you doing? What'd you think? Episode 3, man. Yeah, I feel like we have passed 8 episodes this season. We're past the first quarter. We are entering into the second quarter of the season, I guess.
Yeah, man, it's exciting. I wasn't really sure what to expect in this episode, as Frog Lady, eggs in tow, keeping Baby Yoda at arm's length distance, and Mando limping their way in the Razor Crest to Trask. I didn't know what to expect this episode. I figured there'd be the reunion of the frog people. But this just held a lot of twists and turns that were kind of fun, kind of exciting.
Off guard. As I think about it, it feels like a little bit of a reality TV, because there's kind of like the Razor Crest gets a little bit of Mon Calamari makeover, and is definitely got a new look by the time the episode's over. And I make sure I mentioned during our recap, there's certainly a few items that my Christmas list based on things that I saw used during this episode. So it's definitely it's fantastic for like the home shopping network, if there is such thing on the HoloNet in Star Wars.
Well, I can't imagine there not being some type of secondhand option. I mean, if nothing else, we'll just visit Tatooine and hang out with our Jawa friends. But I'm a little curious. Like, give me a short list of Christmas items that this episode inspired.
There apparently is a Star Wars multi-tool that, like, not only is for R2s, but Mandalorians carry this similar multi-tool for breaking in and breaching the hull of an Empire freighter, it looked like, or a transport ship. And it looked very similar to what I saw as one of the for the R2 series of droids back in the day.
Anytime any form of MacGyverism is happening, this guy right here is happy.
Yeah, exactly. So what'd you think? We've got some Gene things as far as like different takes on what the way is. Certainly an opening up of might be a spectrum of what the philosophies of what to be a Mandalorian means to different people.
Our previous conversation, I told you that there's a couple things there that were really intriguing to me, coming at it from a Christ-centered perspective, that I think are really important to address in faith formation. But I was thinking, Steve, I mean, we've got some highlights from the episode here, but I think we've done well when we've tried to work sequentially, and then we kind of randomize as we work sequentially through it. And I thought maybe we could do that with our notes today. Are you game?
Which actually, what I do appreciate when the way they're telling this story is that for those of you that are watching, we figured there might be 7 people that are watching these episodes, that when you watch the recap, don't skip recap. It's very important. It lays out, it's a clue to what they're going to talk about in the episode clearly. And then based on, we just came off this ice planet and we're limping to Trask. And as they re-enter the Trask atmosphere, they definitely highlight the idea that there's not going to be any more spiders on the hull of the ship. There's not going to be any ice left on there, because they definitely have a hard burn as they're heading in for that landing.
We are coming in hot.
Definitely.
My randomized use of green props.
Coming in hot.
I'm going to edit in a Razor Crest later.
Yeah, speaking of, like, if there's anyone that wants to sponsor this podcast, so that we can upgrade props from being a green Gatorade bottle to an actual, if anyone from the show wants to send us a Razor Crest or a check, we're happy to use those props during the making of this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, even if you wanted to go to the trouble of just like printing out a picture and gluing it to the back on the back with some cardboard, and then just dropping that to either Steve or I. I mean, I can affix some paracord to that, and we can get a really first class kind of Mystery Science Theater 3000 going here. At the end of the day, the Millennium Falcon was not held together with much more than paracord and netting. I think it was cleverly disguised as functional, right. Whereas in this episode, there's no getting around the dysfunction and paracord just being like, why would you spider web paracord
I felt like there was
across
more
the cockpit?
Yeah, it seemed like maybe on a fish planet, there's a lot less welding that happens, just how to do knots. So we're going to do knots. Metal sinks, paracord floats. We're going to random netting for this makeover of the Razor Crest. Now, did think was interesting as at some point the Frog Lady and Mando have to have started to, either there's an urgency voice, because they totally neglected in the opening scenes that her still not understanding his language, but she clearly understands she's supposed to hold this lever back. And there's a look on her face like, is that little guy going to eat any more of my eggs while I'm trying to keep us alive during the landing of this ship? Okay. You're making me choose once again, Mando. Yeah, exactly. She has just traveled for who knows how many, 15, 22, maybe multiple days, not just hours, that they're limping to Trask. And now she's told, no, your most important job is to hold this lever. And I'm assuming that's what the job is, because I still don't understand you. You're a Mandalorian, and it freaks you out when I hack in the death bot robot that has the voice box that I've been using to communicate with you.
Now, why hasn't that been integrated into the internal systems of the Razor Crest at this point? That would seem a smart move on both of their parts, but maybe like in many cultural situations, we've begun to understand each other more than we're able to speak each other's languages. And something I really respect about Mando is that because there's a lack of understanding, he doesn't attempt to communicate by speaking louder and yelling the same words over and over again, that in some way you're going to like hammer and force your language into someone else because you've increased the velocity of words and force.
I appreciate it doesn't go to the default American ignorance. I will yell louder, and around me who speak my language understand that I'm frustrated, but then also completely declare I'm not with it, as far as like that system of problem solving doesn't work.
Right.
So yeah, I respect that. And then upon landing, he as we push back the Olympics, I always think of he didn't exactly stick the landing. It looked good there for a minute. Then it tumbles into the water there. Yeah.
Just the
some of my thoughts on that
wall of humiliation.
Right, and it's almost like it's made and engineered by the same people who are engineering the jetpacks. We can get you to the ground. We can stop a lot of we can do the deceleration thing. We're just not really good on stability once we're there. We're a little side heavy, one way or another.
Right. So he was pretty keen on making sure that he could stick the landing. But I wonder if it would have been safer just to have gone for a water landing, like the impact maybe. I mean, he ended up there anyway and just skipped the middleman with the landing pad. Because if you can survive in space in your cockpit and the rest of your ship is already compromised, my limit of logic would deduce that you're probably going to be okay with the pressure of shallow water in a bay where you're supposed to have landed on like a tarmac.
But it does give the Mon Calamari like auto mechanic or engineer, what I'm not sure how we're going to refer to this guy as. It gives him the opportunity to have a very judgy look. Like, what's this nut? doing, not only like coming in as hot as he did, but doesn't stick the landing. You know what we're going to do is we're going to have to get that crane over here. This is not the first out of system Yahoo that's tried to land here. So we've got this retrofitted crane that looks very similar to a walker.
Yeah.
You know, repurposed. And what we're going to do is we're going to yank it up, but we are also going to, it looked like they were dredging, because the amount of seaweed that they got on the Razor Crest and the amount of time it took to get it up, like they've got quite the kelp beds growing right there on the planet.
It was a lot of aquatic vegetation that was coming up out of the deep there with them, which made me really think, you know, how long had they been under? Which it didn't seem very long, but that walker was pretty slow coming across the bay there. That was kind of cool. I need to go back and look at that again, because it was just one of those things you don't really appreciate. But if you can reduce, reuse, recycle with the Empire's, you know, machinery of death, and put them to a use that's going to actually help the people of the galaxy, I'm all for it. I'm all for it every time. And I think another observation that I have with this is, you don't see Baby Yoda making a play for the kelp. I look at him, he's short, he's small, he's green. I would assume maybe more of a leafy green type creature, but we just know from season 1, we know from last episode even, Baby Yoda prefers things that are probably living. And if they're round, that's even better. If they're a little bit squiggly and moving, that's exciting. And the kelp doesn't do that. It just hangs there, and it's just in the way. But the calamari did manage to get the kelp removed from the hull, but I didn't see any of that on the netting or the paracord at the end of the episode, which, you know, I mean, with what he paid him, it's probably only fair.
And that also leads to the next point, that it almost feels you feel this tension with the Mandalorian, that having to have these conversations about with Pod Yoda or Baby Yoda, that he needs to stop playing with his food, and that he potentially is only attracted to food that he can see is moving and is a hunt and find type thing, because we've seen him consume frogs in the first season. We've seen him consume hibernating spiders in last episode. So they land. So in the canteen, these seats are very it's interesting approach to a cantina. Now I've to Disneyland, and I wasn't able to get into Olga's cantina. But from the pictures that I saw, I certainly hope that they don't have set up a very similar chowder distribution system. This particular cantina does, because what it looks like is that all the tables are very pricey. Like, table, you need to be here if you need to be eaten. But what they've set up is like this tube and hose type system to deliver the chowder directly to the table. And they built into it that you know that the portion is done once you see a big plop into the bowl. Also emphasized by a bulge in the tubing that drops whatever the live creature each bowl comes with. Yeah, and then but he's willing to buy information. So this is the right place. I like it how man knows for going to the right places. I know that the frog people, you know, led him to be there. On the way there, we also know he is being watched once again. There's a lot of scenes in The Mandalorian we need to keep track of that on all planets, he's always being watched. People know who he is. And I think that we both have some thoughts on what that feels like. And in the past episodes, recaps regarding what it feels like to know that people are always watching, because when you hold yourself a certain way or you present yourself a certain way, people are going to be watching. Do you have any thoughts on the cantina there that were about the child playing with his food and the and Mando's parenting skills?
Right. Mando, like you were saying, people are watching, but Mandalorian's already come with a reputation. And so, I get the vibe that when he's walking into a place, they're like, oh, that's a Mandalorian. They either see it as an opportunity or someone to avoid. They're not like trying to make friends because he's stoic, you know. He's pretty even keel. He does seem like the kind of individual, though, that I would enjoy as a guide in like a backwater burg, to find that greasy spoon, you know, to find that crusty bowl, to find that squiggly dish, you know, that culinary exception that most people are going to walk away from. But Mando is going to serve to small green children, and he doesn't even bat a visor eye at it. You know what I'm saying? It begs the question: how much of that oatmealish type prop food did they have left over from the Matrix? Because really, all they had to do was add some type of you know, living symbiotic type little creature that wants to suck your face off before you put it in your face, and they had all that they wanted. I don't imagine that scene took a lot of takes. You probably only get away with the little creature jumping on Baby Yoda's face once, because the next time his mouth's going to be open, and that scene's going to be gone.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting. It's the first three different sea creatures that we encounter in this episode, with very, very different eat or be eaten, or hey, you're just a nuisance. I'm not feed this last one in the episode to the kid, because he's just going to play with you for the potentially, I've got to fly us out of here. So
for sure,
comes up one thought.
And you know, they've really set us up to expect a creature in each episode, haven't they? Like, if there's not going to be a creature, I'm probably going to be a little bit disappointed. Like, you need to introduce a new character to me, or a new creature, or a new dangerous situation for Mando to have to, like, Beskar gadgety armor his way through to thrill the fan. Which in this one, he doesn't really do, but we meet some new people along the way.
Absolutely. And sometimes what I saw find it interesting in this one, once again, you're out in the Wild West. You're out in the Outer Rim. You can't always trust the first people that are willing to be hired and say they could take you to the main. So he hops on the trawler, and they're traveling out there, and you know, he's starting to feel good about himself. He's taking his kid different cantinas, had a little bone broth, had a little chowder with some squiddish stuff in there. Now he's taking him out on this trawler. Now on this trawler, what I don't quite understand is I would think they're trying to really think they would have much of a hull. I would think they would try to be more of like a Hobie cat, where they're catamaran long, but apparently they have something in the hull. And Mando is trying to show the child, or Pod Yoda has a pod at this point, the world, and they're going along. And what are you doing carrying a creature have to feed? Like, why are they wasting all these fish feeding this thing? And it seems pretty funky. Like, that should have been the first like red flag. Mando should have been like, why do they have this portable garbage disposal / potential Sarlacc pit on water there? Yeah, I know you had some thoughts on the water Sarlacc, or what we're encountering here.
Yeah, it is curious. You can't see the rest of the ship. It begs a lot for the imagination. And as soon as those fish are dropped and this thing emerges, and you're like, this is scary. Like, if this is a pet, if this is just something that they're keeping around, these guys are not to be trifled with. And it's an interesting scene. I wasn't really sure what was happening, and then when Pod Yoda is catapulted by one of these squiddy faced sailors, that was a shocking moment for me. I just thought, what a brazen lack of child safety. Mostly on Mando's part, because he should have seen that coming. His Mandalorian skill set should have informed him of danger, Will Robinson. And I just want to say to you, from my Star Wars heart to yours, Steve, R.I.P. Pod Yoda, because while the child does emerge, the pod does not survive the incident, and I do feel though that there is a sense of some type of comedic karma in here with Baby Yoda having indulged himself upon huevos in the previous episode, and now he looks like a little egg with a green little yolk, and this is dropped into the mouth of danger, never to be seen again except for a minute later. A quick minute.
Yeah. A very panic-filled minute, definitely. Yeah, so it's the I guess the like the trash version of, hey, there's a spot on your shirt, and before you know it, Mando's down to save the child, and then there's this cage that goes back over them, and in good Star Wars fashion, that's how you know that you're not dealing with kind people, because anytime you they actually are just viewing the consumption of something that they've thrown, be it to a rancor or into a pit. There's something about like these Star Wars bad dudes that are very Bond-esque to watch the consumption, and they're holding their hands. They're like, ooh, this Beskar is going to be easy. We know whatever thing we have down in the hole here. He doesn't eat Beskar. He's got some taste, okay, but he's actually going to be pretty happy with this because we gave them a little egg. Yeah.
So this even this even like really cuddles up to my curiosity on what this damage is in Boba Fett's helmet. And Mando's armor has stayed pretty clear of any long-term battle damage. I don't know if it's a different like tensile strength or a different grade of Beskar. But no matter what happens to him, he might be a little grimy. He might have a little dirt underneath his fingernails, but that Beskar is gleaming clean. And he hasn't painted it yet. He hasn't painted it yet. There have not been colors designated for what his role in Mandalorian society and in the greater galaxy is going to be. I think we're still in this identity formation where Boba Fett, who seems to have like turned on his green sense of duty, and we see these new Mandalorians show up and they're wearing blue, and I'm not really sure what that means because I haven't done a deep dive into it yet. Maybe you do. But I'm curious to see what the Mandalorian's color will emerge as down the road.
Absolutely. And as the episode progresses, we start to realize that maybe where him not having any or a lot of signets and different things integrated to his own style leads to what we learn as being him of the Watch, that he's from this very straight-laced, almost like we would describe people, shirt, black tie, Sunday best, no frills type of gear, potentially on one end of the spectrum relative to his new friends who not only save his fingertips but also styled as they come zooming in. But they come in and they've got style. They're doing spin, they're doing roundhouses. They've got like a coordinated crew color. They've got, like you were talking about, they've got their own design helmet. Like, at what point do you get to say, oh, you know what I think I'd like I'd like a horn over here. I'd like I would like this other design over here that but they come in there with so much ash and so much like moxie.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they're super flash, and they got some jetpack kicks, man, for reals. That was exciting. That's one to go back and watch again, and then practice those moves in your backyard. Just so that when the jetpacks do become available, that this isn't going to be like you're going to have muscle memory for this, because we want to be up in those moves. I was super impressed by the Mandalorian She-Ra, that did not hesitate once identification had been made of the child in danger in the belly of whatever hideous beast possessed that massive black hole of a mouth with teeth that were apt for both grinding and puncture. And there's just a few short flashes And I think Mando really missed an opportunity. He was 2 for 2 with Galactic Beasts up to this point, and he'd really upped his game with the Crate Dragon, and with our ship dwelling aquatic Sarlacc. Why did he choose to save his own life and breathe instead of just diving deep down into the gullet of this like Kraken and retrieve Pod Yoda? Because really, I mean, if he'd been thinking ahead, he could have saved his arms. The pod's damaged beyond repair at this point, and now for the rest of the episode, he is relegated to carrying Baby Yoda, who R.I.P. the pod. So I think it's important as parents just to really think about, like, what's the sustainability of keeping my arm at a right angle? And am I going to shift back and forth? Because do I want to have grotesque, missized biceps? And that's really the crossroads that Mandalorian is at here.
Right. And I think each time he's choosing right arm, left arm, he's thinking, okay, do I want to have flamethrower available to fend off evil ones, or is it time for the whistling birds?
Right. It's always time for the whistling birds.
Those are choices that parents are having to take. I think he has a relatable moment where we find ourselves, we're wanting to be advocates for our kids, but I think sometimes in that moment, maybe he's beating himself up for letting his family get in that. And I thought it was fantastic that he let fellow Mandalorians step in and help him out.
He was, he was hosed. There was no coming out. There was not a path to safety from below this cage with spears being thrust. So he needed this trifecta of Mandalorian glory to swoop in and save the day. Really, yeah. Which leads to a very
and then they have the conversation, which is the big right. Lay it out for me.
No, you set it up, man. Set it up.
So he is, as mentioned in the pre-episode clue, the one thing that you hear him say about, like, that's core to him about being Mandalore is not revealing your face. And he's coming in and he's going to have a discussion with these people that just saved him, that have bought they paid into his bucket. He owes them at least a conversation, but they immediately take their helmets off. And he is just appalled, and he's figuring, once again, am I back here with like this Marshall situation? Do I have to reclaim 3 more suits of Beskar and return them to my people? Do I have to set things right? And they're like, whoa. This armor's been in my family for 3 generations. I am Bo-Katan, and I'm from Crest. I hope I'm not butchering that. And who do you think you are, Johnny come lately? You don't even have any symbol in your Mandalorian
Foundling.
armor. And they have a disagreement.
He's not even a pureblood,
Yeah. And so they're sizing him up and basically realize that, okay, that he is part of what we feel to us as a child of the Watch.
Yeah, which good on him for taking people in, They're picking up the stragglers. And I got to admire that when somebody's lost their family, they're going to take you under the wing, and you don't really have a choice in that. But as it turns out, he was raised in a bit of a cultish situation, which, historically Christians were thought of as a cult of Judaism. I think it's important to note that. And that this crazy cult that talked about eating the flesh and drinking the blood of their, Hebrew supposed Messiah that was really crucified, and that story's really over, except they never found the body. We're not really sure what to do with that. And they keep talking about this resurrection thing, which doesn't make any sense, because what's that all about? Like, that's not a part of our understanding of deity. So the word cult is very interesting. And I think while often Christians will push back against maybe another type of religion being a cult, what unifies Christianity are the creeds, which is a word we're familiar with within our Mandalorian lore here. And Mando has this moment where he's confronted for the first time that there is more than one way to live out the creed of the Mandalore. Maybe it's okay for you to take off your Beskar helmet. Maybe you don't need to recycle and breathe your own breath like you're wearing a COVID mask for your entire life. You know, I spoke with a friend recently who works in the medical field, and because of their having to wear a mask continually all the time, they've had to get on acne medication. True story, because it's just the moisture and everything has created this, you know, rash and then clogged pores, and it's a real thing. We've seen him with his helmet off through the eyes of the assassin droid, the IG assassin droid. But I love how Mando doesn't even hesitate. Where'd you get that armor? Because there's split thoughts here, and then I'll pause, Steve. There's split thoughts here. One, these people aren't real Mandalorians because they took their helmet off, and I think a lot of that goes around in Christianity. What he needs to do is he asks a question. I think that's good. Where did you get that armor? What he doesn't do is assume that they are Mandalorian because they don't quite practice the Mandalorian creed the same way that he does. This is important because when we're confronted for the very first time in our lives that there might be other people that believe different than we do, even within our own religion or sect or cult of, that can be a very tumultuous time of disequilibrium. And we see Mando having that, but there in the back of his mind, he has to also be thinking, I've carried one suit of Beskar. I don't know if I can manage 3 and the child.
I think that what it comes to is that, you know, we are shaped by our past. And in the same way that she and this line that has gone of Mandalorians that has gone by the Empire, other Christians, they're shaped by their past. And as he has been like has felt like he's followed the specific ways and methodically kept the code in the way he was brought up. I think we're at a point where we're seeing him in a time in his life where very similar to like you and me, we both met at university at the college, and we were both raised in the Christian faith. And at a certain point in college, it stops being the religion of your parents, and it has to start becoming a relationship that you, being shaped by your past, but also engaged in current situation and things that God is revealing to you, it becomes your own relationship. And you can have a differing opinion years later when you go back and you see how your parents practice their relationship with Christ versus yours. And that's very formative. And I think that's what we're seeing in Mando is that he's he's being exposed to different interpretations of the creed.
Yeah.
And here,
that's right.
As you pointed out, like it's almost like he's manipulated by those that know the buzz of the creed into feeling a higher level of commitment to helping them with their cause and their short-term mission in this episode.
Yeah, that's right. We're about to find out how resilient Mando is. We're about to find out how he can be like recrafted, recreated, retooled within his belief system so that he's able to operate with and cooperate with others that don't quite see the same way that he does or believe the same way that he does or practice the same way that he does, but that they still share a common ancestry. They share a common Mandalorian history, and they're rooted in this creed. And really, I think as followers of Christ, it comes down to sussing out the essentials and the non-essentials. And you know what? You can look that up. Christian history is filled with creeds, but there are a few that unite both the trifecta of Protestantism, Catholicism, and Orthodoxy on this planet that we currently reside upon. And Jesus really summed it up well. Like if I were to pick one thing that were to be the Christian creed, it's love God with all you are and your neighbor as yourself. And if we can adhere to that, there's lots that fits in within that. There's lots of community. There's a robust sense of being able to do life together. It's when we start majoring on the non-essentials that things get judgy, like the calamari standing on the dock waiting for you to crash because you obviously don't have things put together. Why don't you get your ship cleaned up, get your ship together, and then come visit our little dwelling and gathering and community? And that's not what Jesus was about. Jesus was going to the seedy cantina. I mean, Jesus easily would have fit into the Mos Eisley cantina, any of these little backwater places, any of these greasy spoons. So we're going to find out. And Mando doesn't respond super well. He just takes his Yoda and doesn't go home because he doesn't have one and flies someplace else. But that view where he's watching from a distance and the Mandalorians blow up the ship and then there's this moment where he's watching and he's pondering and he's thinking and he's taking these things to heart. And I'm excited about that because what's happening in the storyline of the Mandalorian isn't just an awesome epic space adventure of sci-fi. Their character development is diving into the inner workings and the grinding of what it means to personally explore a faith system. Well, that got heavy. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. He created distance, but he also kept an eye on what they ended up doing to that ship, the freighter, that they were the trawler that they were on. But then also, he's lucky that they didn't just write him off, because little do they know it, like, he needs their help again relatively shortly. Because there's always a brother of a brother that's going to come after you, and so he gets to have
I got one thing.
They're persistent. They continue to pursue him, which I like that.
Right before that confrontation happens, and that, like, I don't know if it was a dock or a warehouse or whatever it was. Something always shady is happening on the back docks of wherever, right? When he's like, you killed my brother. I had this Princess Bride recitation of lines beginning to happen. It was kind of a, you killed my father. My name is Mando Monday.
And I almost thought he was going to ask him are you the Mandalorian that has 6 fingers? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And Mando doesn't skip a beat. Pulse does not rise. He's just like, let me pass. Like, what? I wanted the Blue Mandos to hang back a little bit and just see what was going to happen and then come in and save him. But instead, they somehow, like, they get in. And man, these people are motivated by action. They can easily synchronize with each other on who's taking out who and how we're going to end this party swiftly.
They're definitely a crew that has worked together, and that shows up once Mando buys into and realizes, okay, they need me, I need them, and I'm willing to help them accomplish. I'm only signing on to do this small thing, and it's only a squad. So he realizes that maybe he doesn't have his game together of how to coordinate and battle their Mandalorians as the episode drags on.
Comment there.
What's presented to him is not like, no, go for it.
Yeah, it's just that he. Are you going to talk about the exchange between the two of them and, like, how she sets it up for him to get involved with their little caper?
Well, I think you had a better grasp of how she uses the code and his core values and speaks to his commitment to other Mandalorians as part of being part of the code that allows him to, okay, I don't put leaving the child in someone else's care, but I also have this other calling and commitment to you as a Mandalorian that I need to help you accomplish your goals.
Yeah, with Mando, it's like he's had these life experiences where the galaxy is like his bounty fob. There's nothing off limits. But on the outside, on the inside, he's got this like very small galactic perspective. Like he sees everything through this little peephole of his understanding of the creed. And you begin rubbing Beskar with these other Mandos, and you get these head nods from them that they have a really bigger perspective on the creed and its place in their history. But their focus is back on their planet. So Mando lives out here, but thinks like this, and they want to live in here, but they have this really bigger worldview perspective and galactic perspective, that there's lots of different ways to operate within the creed, and it's not just fixated on one point of it that can only be interpreted one way. And that's when, in our previous conversation, I brought up the idea of just when she lays out it's the trump card. It's this is the way. And once you say that as a Mandalorian to Mando, he has to respond, this is the way, and then do whatever you want. That seems to be the pattern here. Like you might not agree with me until I say that this is the way, but now that I have, now you're going to agree with me. It's a little unsettling how he just gets roped up into these things, because it's just, this is the way. Because apparently part of the creed is you have to help another Mandalorian out, no matter what the cause is, whether it's a lost cause, a good cause, bad cause, or a little bit shady, as it turns out. And Mando, he jumps into it. And I think that they knew that, and that because they have a bigger perspective on the creed, that they were able to manipulate him and kind of reel him in to where, there's layers to this Ish player, Tiramisu. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I think for the most part, like for purposes of time, because we don't want the episode to go, the recap to go, like we've already met more time than the episode took to watch. But the reality is that he goes on, they breach the hull with some really cool stuff. They ends up in that that's where the tool that one of the Mandalorian uses to breach the hull is really cool. It's very similar to R2 had on board, and that some of them made some poor choices with management. Like he was duped. There were definitely more than a squad that was there, and we talked about four of that, and
it was a platoon. It was easily a platoon.
So he commits to going on this mission. And as you can see, he evolves as a team player, and they end up like on the outside of the hull. How many guys would you say they had to take out? Like 4, 6, 8, man?
At least. At least.
So Mando's like the red flags are starting to show that, hey, maybe there's more than a squad.
This is a bigger job than the deal.
Maybe there's more than a squad.
Presented
and then
as. They
get inside. Right, but like it's that you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. You don't just halfway.
That's right.
A hull and take these weapons that they're looking for, and they get inside. They also get introduced to this character that's played by a guy named a guy that I've seen previously on shows like Bosch. Plays this great character where you can see in his body language, he's like, yeah, I'm a loyalist.
He's a company man.
I have to deal with some knucklehead management that reports to me, and these the stormtroopers that I have, it is true that they can't hit the side of, as you said, what, a bantha? Is that what they would have a hard time?
That's
hitting?
What he said. That's what he said.
They take the hull, and they realize the one middle management like radios up, hey, they're Mandalorians, but here's the good thing, boss, we've sectioned them off. We closed all the doors, and we've locked them into just the cargo control area, which the lower middle management guy doesn't quite understand. That the high middle management guy is kind of like, you allow them to take what area of the ship. It does have like what I consider one of my favorite parts of the episode. You and me both have talked about this as kids. We used to choose your own adventure books, and you never wanted to go to page 68 because page 68 was you got out of the airlock, and unfortunately these 6 or 8 troopers, they don't realize it until just then that, hold on, we let them take the cargo control area, and they go boop boop boop, and then boom, jettisoned out the back of this transport are about 8 ex Imperials, because they're ex everything right now.
They wish they had jetpacks.
Yeah, and so as the episode goes on, you start to see that Mando is holding back, but he eventually sees how they work together and coordinate their attacks, and he eventually gets to the point where he understands, I have to get to the hull, I have to get the Bo-Katan has to get to take control of the ship. It's not just enough to destroy it. They need to take control and give these weapons.
Right. Did you freeze or did you pause?
Saved them now twice in this episode.
Yeah. So here's my parting thoughts, man. So you guys can get out of that parking lot.
To the hull, and then we get exposed to more of Bo-Katan's. Yeah. So we get into the cockpit, and I think you had some thoughts on how things wrapped up.
Yeah. Well, let me just tell you just a few things I'm looking forward to seeing. And then you guys get out of there, man. But one, the other Mandalorians felt obligated to help Mando out by Creed as well. Like he leaned into that a little bit, and they didn't push back on it. They're like, yeah, we'll help you. We'll point you in the direction of Jedi. I was a little disappointed we didn't see any Jedi in this episode. I'm really excited to see this new quest for the Black Saber that apparently belongs to the heir apparent of Mandalore, and Bo-Katan is making a beeline for that bad boy. And I'm really curious to see the fate of the Razor Crest. I'm ready for him to land in a port where they can pimp his ride. I think that's an important aspect of equipment enhancement that really needs to happen soon before they get blown out in airlock and Mando's the only one that survives. Who knows how long Baby Yoda can hold his breath based upon him being a Force-enabled individual. And last thought is just this, that not only does Baby Yoda enjoy live food, he enjoys playing with his food, and he also enjoys making friends with his food. And I think that is going to build to a point of tension and conscience for him as an individual and character in this arc, if he is to align with the compassionate actions of Mando. In every episode, he can't help himself. He has to help somebody. And it seems like he's already operating outside of his creed with an ethic of love, but he doesn't have words to put around it yet.
It's a pretty good recap. This is the way.
This is the way. Thank you, Steve.
You have a good one. Talk to you later, Kenny.